Since it's nice to have two people to banter and chat while we're doing our projects, Haley's joining us today for our project. Today we're going to be working with acrylic paint on black prepped paper, canvas paper actually. Talk about that in a minute. Okay, so here is the finished image, or sort of what it'll look like. Ideally, it's your art, so it's going to be completely different. So canvas paper is basically a heavy paper. It's you can get it at Alberta Art Drafting or craft stores. It's basically a primed canvas paper, just like what you'd have if you had wrapped canvas around stretchers. What I have done though to prep the surface for today is I had got some black gesso. Gesso is like white acrylic paint, but it's thinner, it dries harder, and it makes the surface more stiff. I know from experience, please do not try to use house primer. Not good. I did that once when I was in university with my oil paints, and then all of the oil sucked through, and then the powder was left on top. So trust me on this one, you want a little bit of gesso. You can also use black acrylic paint for this, but you do want some sort of a medium. You obviously, oh, sorry, it shows the price here. You obviously don't want this size. You can get very small ones. And so these mediums, when you mix together with the two, I can't talk. I'm not sure why you need the medium with the gesso, because the gesso, I tried it without and it will rub off at the end. So you need to mix the two together. You can go to Alberta Art Drafting. They can get you some medium and they can get you some gesso and your canvas paper. So once that is primed, so I have this prepped. Haley has a piece prepped. We want some white Conté Crayon, and I had a little piece kicking around, and of course it's lost on me. Oh, right here. Okay. So when I was getting ready for this today, I was looking around for my Conté Crayon, and I was like, why do we only have one skinny little piece? So I broke it really small. So Haley has a chunk, and I have a chunk. So this is what Conté Crayon looks like, okay? And you would also get this at Alberta Art Drafting. It comes in black, white, actually multiple colors. I had to look it up just before because I was like, what is Conté Crayon? I've used it before, but I'm like, hey, it's hard. Anyway, it started off as powdered graphite with clay added to it. And it was a way graphite had become very expensive or non-existent during the Napoleonic Wars, apparently. Anyway, so it is kind of like a charcoal and a graphite. It's just a really neat drawing medium. So what we're going to do today is that for our image, we want to draw something from our minds. We just want to have fun, and we're going to use this white as our pencil per se. And when we paint, we're going to paint up to these white lines that we make. And then after everything is dry, we are going to wipe off the white Conté Crayon, and we're going to be left with these nice bold black lines. It's just a different way of creating a painting. And oh, see, you can see here, let's see if I can show you that, because this is when I first used just gesso, and then when I was trying to wipe off my Conté Crayon, I was left with it took the paint off too. So that's why you want the medium, or you have to be quite careful when you take the Conté Crayon off. Okay, so we're gonna draw. I would just play with organic lines. So those are just lines and shapes that are swirly. They're not angular. However, if you want to make angular lines, feel free to do that as well. We just want to get some sort of a drawing on here. I have a tendency of liking swirls, so I will probably do that again. And then Haley over there, she's awesome. She's right on the ball and she's starting to go. So let's figure out what we're gonna draw. So Haley, what are you drawing over there?
I started with a circle, and I think I'm just going to put a lot of lines radiating off of it in different directions.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is, I think this project is so fun. When I was initially, this Conté Crayon on black gesso and medium was something I teach adult women to paint every week and have for years. And this one lady was enthralled with that. She's a more of a local artist. Her name's Sharon Johnson, and she's out of Rimby. And oh, she has these beautiful landscapes. Excuse me. And they're just chunky and gestural, and oh, they're just beautiful. But she always has these black lines in there that are left behind. So then one of the ladies I talked to her once, and she's like, how do you do that? Like, how do you create that look? And so her mixture was gesso with some sort of a medium. She also she mixes a purple paint with the black gesso, but anyway, so it's just the two. And then she wipes off Conté Crayon because it wipes off quite nicely. And yeah, it is something that I've wanted to work with a little bit more. Every year I go to this, they didn't have it last year, so I can't wait until it starts again. But out at Gilby Hall, out of Gilby, they have this plein air Paint the River Day once a year in September. And all these artists go out, and people give us permission to go on their land so that we can paint the river, and it's for the Medicine River Watershed Society. Anyway, so a couple of years ago, I was like, okay, I'm going to have a Paint Like Sharon Johnson Day, and I'm going to do this. And then Sharon Johnson decided to show up. She'd never been before. And she's like, Christel, I'm going to come with you. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, just so you know. But they do say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, right? Okay, so once you get some lines on there that you're happy with, sections, and it looks like Haley's done. I am not, so I can be done because that's probably good. All right, so since I'm right-handed, I'm putting my palette to my right. I always put my paper towel underneath as well so that I can rinse off my brushes. So we're going to be using acrylic paint today. Student grade is absolutely fine. There's even some Michael stuff here that we have. The one thing I say though is if you really get into acrylic painting and you want to splurge on something, splurge on yellow, because yellow's so transparent. What we're going to do today though to help with that transparency is we're going to add white paint to it. So if any of the colors you pick are too see-through, that's the transparency, and you see the black through it, add white to that, okay? And that will help right up, or that'll help make it more opaque so that we can't see through it. So we are going to put, and actually since I'm talking about yellow, I might as well start with some yellow. So I'm going to put a little bit of yellow on my palette. So you always want to start with less and then add more. Acrylic is a relatively fast drying medium, and when it dries, it is a type of plastic. So I'm putting out some white with my yellow. I am going to take, I'll work with this medium-sized brush. I'm going to take some yellow, and I'm going to move it elsewhere, just over, because I'm going to mix up some paint here. What you want to do before you're picking a different color is please clean your brush off, otherwise you're going to contaminate the other colors. So I'm going to take my yellow brush here, I'm going to swish it off in the water. Okay, and then I have my paper towel here. I can check and see. It's like, yep, that's clean. There's no more yellow on it. So now I'm going to take some white. I'm going to move it to my little puddle of yellow, and I'm going to mix it. So ideally, we're just going to keep making little puddles of paint every time we need to make a different color. Okay. So now that I've mixed that nicely, I'm going to figure out where I want my yellow. And I'm just going to move this up so you guys can see a little better. I think I'm going to do this section yellow. So what we want to do is, like I said, we want to go right up to that white. If you go over it, that's okay, but try not to, because that's how we get the really neat effect of these nice chunky black lines around our image. You can see that the yellow, we're doing pretty good with the yellow being not too terribly transparent. I'm just going to show you quick what yellow by itself would look like. So I swished off this brush. Okay. Now I'm going to take some yellow straight off the paper or the palette, and I'm going to show you. Okay, so see how I'm painting with this yellow, and you can see the huge difference right here. So it's very, very transparent. It almost gives you a greeny look. That is because it's over top of black. So when you mix black and yellow, you get this kind of green. It's actually a nice color for shadows when you need it, but we don't want that today. We want these bright, beautiful, bold colors. So I'm gonna go back, and now that I've already mixed this paint here, I don't have to swish my brush off. I'm just wiping it off, and I'm gonna go back to my little pile. It's just when you're mixing new colors, and then if you're gonna mix some more is when you ideally would like to have your brush clean. So how you doing over there, Haley?
I have one circle.
Yes. You know what? If you want, well, it depends. If you want to keep the outline really bold, like that, because that's a huge outline, or are you just putting a secondary color with it? Because otherwise I'd say go closer to the yellow.
Yeah.
Or sorry, not the yellow. Geez, closer to the white line.
I think I'm probably going to switch it around. On certain lines have it thinner and other lines have it thicker.
Okay. See, that's pretty cool. And that's the really neat thing, I think, about art. Oh, look, I just went over the white line. That's okay. So I have this project that we're doing here today, and right away you can see Haley's looks very different from mine. She's wanting to have thicker black, some places with thicker black line and less without. So even though we are doing the same project, we're ending up with very different, already a very different look. So I just made it myself up a little bit more yellow paint. When my yellow dries here, I will probably do a second coat on it just because to make it a more vibrant color, more pure yellow. I don't want to really see a lot of that black underneath.
I also like to mix some of my paint with a little bit of water just so that it spreads a little nicer on the canvas.
Okay, so now here is where Haley and I, unfortunately, are going to butt heads. Okay. Acrylic paint is still a relatively new medium. They don't actually know what will happen by adding water to it, how it's going to last, like longevity wise. If you really want to thin your paint down a little bit, that's when you want to use your medium. Okay. Never water. I always tell people that. Please don't use water. Just use more paint. Or if it's really thick, as Haley is saying, then add some medium. Or if you don't have that, you can use some water, but that is something that I'm opposed to. I will admit that I have done it periodically for projects, but sometimes, like if you want to glaze things, so if I wanted to have I painted onions. So when you're painting onions and you're building up those layers of the translucency of the onion skins, I will use a glaze. So some people will be like, oh yeah, so you just thin your paint down a ton with water. Well, no, you actually use a medium. And that way we know that this is going to last. So when I do paintings that I sell and they go into people's houses, I want to know that the paint quality is very good. So it is a little different when you're doing this stuff, like just a fun project that you're learning about. However, you might, make something fantastic that you want to last for a very long time, or you want to give it to a gift, or who knows. Then sometimes it's just better to make sure that you have that good quality. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little bit of color mixing. So I have this yellow mixture, and I'm going to take a little bit of, I have some vermilion, which is the type of red. It's a little, oh, it's not opened yet. It's a little bit more like a orangey red, but I want to make this even more orange. So I'm putting the lid back on, and I'm going to grab a bit of this orange. My brush is clean, and I'm going to bring it over here, and I'm going to mix it with my yellow white mixture, and you can see we're getting kind of a peachy color now. So I'm going to find another area on my page, and I'm going to paint it this peachy color that I just made. And then some of this stuff, like I said, I will put a second coat on it just so that it's a little bit more vibrant. I like this color that I made. I like the yellow too. So I'm gonna just put this orange color elsewhere. When you have different sizes of brushes, it is a good idea to use those different sizes for different things. This is a filbert shape. It's just kind of curved. And it's a slightly smaller brush, so I can go closer to the area or closer to the edge. See, I don't know if you guys can see this, but I just dripped some water on here, which is fine, not gonna hurt it. However, that's why I say set your station up. If you're right-handed, right side, left side, because otherwise you're could be dripping paint and causing problems. You know what I realized I didn't do, however, I don't know if people are commenting or asking questions. There we go. Okay. If you are out there watching, please ask questions if need be, or if you want to know anything else. Okay, so I'm going to, sometimes you don't always necessarily have to rinse your brush off completely. If it looks relatively clean, just carry on. I'm going to add some more, take some more vermilion and add this to my puddle. And then I'm going to go back in here in these inner circles. Okay, gonna pull this down. Oh, and actually, I realized, well, no, never mind. Okay, I'm just gonna stop there. So how's it going over there, Haley?
Not too bad. Going to mix in a color. I think I'm gonna try for like a mustard yellow.
Ah, you do have some yellow ochre there over there as well, I think. I dropped off.
I do. I forgot about these little tubes.
Yeah, I put a bunch there just in case, because you can mix a ton of things, but I thought, oh, sometimes it's just easy to have multiple colors. Geez, you guys should see my studio. And I think I had mentioned last week that I will be moving soon, so I'm packing it up. Just taking this to get the water off of here. And you guys all know too that like purple is my most favorite color. Which I think I will have to make some purple over here. So to make purple, we want to use red and blue. I know from experience that this kind of vermilion red mixed with blue is going to make more of a mauvey, not a vibrant purple, which is what I want. So I'm going to mix this cobalt blue I have over here. I think the cobalt will work. We will see. And we're going to mix it with that red, try to make purple that I like. And then we'll add some white to it. Actually, I think I'm going to use a smaller brush. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm taking some of this red somewhere else on my canvas, or not my canvas, on my palette. And then I'm going to grab some blue. And I'm going to mix it. And it's going to look like a really dark purple right now, but when we add some white to it, it will lighten up because purple is a dark color, or can be a dark color. Yeah, I like this color. It's not a true purple, but this will work.
One of my favorite things about painting is just experimenting with color mixing.
Yes, that can be very, very fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how we can blend a little bit with this paint. So I'm going to start here in the center, and I'm going to actually just keep adding white to this mixture, so making it lighter and lighter. When acrylic is still wet, it's actually nice to, it's good to blend with. or blend colors together. Sometimes I have a hard time talking when and making art at the same time. I'm going to grab an even smaller brush just to get in this area here. You know, use different size brushes for for areas. Like I could use a bigger brush for here, but this little area is kind of small. So I might as well just use a smaller brush. So it's nice to have different sizes of brushes for different things. Oh. And you know you're having a good successful art session when you're getting paint all over yourself. Right. Coming up in here. And then I'm going to go around. This is those silences that we don't necessarily want all the time. I think, if I recall correctly, because I am moving out to Lacombe. That's where you're from too, Haley, right?
It is, yeah.
Rotate your paper as well. Always don't be afraid of, you do what you need so that it's easier for you to work with. So I'm rotating my whole page right now, just so that it's a little bit easier for me to get into these areas. Yes, we're moving to Lacombe soon. July, I believe.
Whereabouts? Without being too specific.
We're actually purchasing my mom's old house. So you know where the action group is?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was my other job.
Which I knew, so I'd mentioned that. And then just further east of that is the Jehovah's Witness Church, and then there's another church right next to it. So I can actually see both these churches from this new place where I'm moving to. My mom and stepdad bought the property. I'm still in high school. So it's it's an acre lot in town. So lots of grass, lots of places for my kids to play.
Okay, I think if I'm thinking of the right spot, then one of my best friends from high school, she lives on that road right next to the creek there.
Yeah.
And they have a curved driveway that goes in front of their house.
Yeah.
And
one of the ones I'm moving into also has a curved driveway. And it's the one as soon as you turn onto that street, very end. It's a big blue house, blue white house.
Yeah, their house is kind of like a pinky beige sort of color. They have a big white Malamute.
Dog?
Yes.
Yeah, I know exactly. Yes. We will be neighbors.
Oh, okay.
Well, sort of neighbors. We're at the end of the cul-de-sac. Okay, so I added a little bit more white to my mixture here. And I'm coming back in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start blending. We've talked a little bit about pressure and how hard you hold things like with pencils. That's the same with paintbrushes. So if you really get in there and press hard, it's going to be really hard to blend. So I'm lightly pressing. And one of the ways that when you're first learning to blend with acrylics is a technique called scumbling. Interestingly, when one of the ladies that I teach, when she first started, she's like, you guys are making up words. I'm like, no, scumbling is a real word. So I had to show her this art book and we were talking about scumbling. But basically what it is, it's dry brushing. So like I said, vary your pressure and then make your brush quite dry. And I can show you, you can wipe it off here and then you can go in and you're just going to gently go back and forth with this dry brush. And it's called scumbling. And you can see how I've nicely blended that. I'm going to go back in with more paint, but I'm going to keep scumbling and I'm going to blend this all out. So I'm going to add a little bit, I'm going to add some more white to my mixture. And you can see why I said, like, I'm going to need quite a bit of white for this, but now I'm contaminating my white with pink. that's okay for right now. But if you don't want that, then you rinse your brush off every time or you get more white. So I'm coming back in here with more paint. So when I'm trying to fill in an area, I have more paint and I am painting more heavy-handedly. And then when I go to blend, I'm not going to have as much pressure. Okay. So right here where it's meeting, it's not as nice of a blend. So I will kind of wipe this brush off again, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to scumble again. So even lighter, just a back and forth motion, but I'm not pressing hard, and I'm getting this nice smooth blend. And then if I get, say here, I just kind of pressed a little bit harder and I left a bit, so I'm just gonna scumble that out so it's all nicely blended. So I'm gonna keep going around. I'm gonna add more white. Just checking to see it over time. Okay, so what I will do is I'm gonna finish up this area. I'm gonna paint a little bit more, and then we will finish off this video just because, well, we've been almost a half hour. And then Haley and I can finish our projects and we will post it on Facebook or in the comment section so that you can see the finished project or the finished project. Jeez. So I'm just continuing to blend out here. You can also blend in with different colors too. Maybe I should do that as I continue on in my circle. So I might add a bit more blue then to make it a little bit more purpley because this is a nice pinky color. Actually, it reminds me of Dusty Rose. That's what it reminds me of. Yeah. When I was, before my mom and stepdad built the house that we are now, my husband and I are purchasing, I had a carpet I was able to, I think my mom picked the color because I was like 8, but it was Dusty Rose. It was plush. It was the 90s. Actually, we would have bought it in the late 80s. And yeah, we even had a carpet rake for it. It's fantastic.
My old house, we had dark green carpeting.
Plush, like it was that thick.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't like shag or anything.
No, but it was just thick plush. Yeah, and then you need a rake to like make it look nice after you vacuumed.
Yeah.
Or that's what we did anyway.
We did not.
I loved raking my carpet after I vacuumed when I was a kid. Okay, so I've added some blue to this, and I'm going to show you how we can blend with this. So I'm coming on here with this. It's a little bit more of a grayish now, which is okay too. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little bit more paint in there, and you can see we have quite the line right here. And I have gone over my white line here, so I'm just going to leave some black. Okay.
In all my university classes and high school art classes, we weren't allowed to use black. We had to make our own.
Which, yes, I was the same way when I was not in high school. I could, but you had that. Is her name Stacy?
Yes.
Fantastic art teacher. Yeah, I don't know her. I loved her. Yeah, she's a great art teacher out in Macomb. But anyway, yeah, no, when I was in college and university, yeah, you don't use black, you make your own black. So ultramarine blue and like a burnt umber makes a beautiful black, and they are rich and creamy, but sometimes it's just easier to have black. Okay, so I'm coming over here. I've wiped my brush off, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to scumble this because I don't want this harsh line. So I'm just varying the pressure, and it takes practice. Okay. Art is a teachable skill, but like anything, you need to practice. And okay, the quote I found for this week is fantastic. If you hear a voice within you say that you cannot paint, then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced. Vincent van Gogh. Okay, so if you still have a bit of a sharp line, which I am not quite liking, I'm just grabbing a little bit more paint and I'm just going back in so that I can scumble and blend a little bit more. And then sometimes if the blending is not quite working out the way you want it, you might want to add a little bit of your other color. So I'm going to remake a little bit more of this dusty rose color, and I'm going to go back in and I'm going to paint some more of that over top. So sometimes it's a matter of just going back and forth. And acrylic paint looks good when it's layered. There, we're getting a pretty good blend going on over here. Oh, see, and then what did I do? My brush wasn't clean enough when I went to go back in to dry brush, and that can be frustrating too, because you're like, oh, I was just there and then I did a little bit more and I feel like I ruined it, but that's okay. There are no mistakes, just happy accidents. Bob Ross. Yeah. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to keep painting. Haley will keep painting. We will put our finished projects in the comments afterwards. So next week, Saya will be here doing patterns and polyhedrons. Ideally, there would be, we'll see if we can't get a template up for you guys to use. So we're going to use this template. We're going to cut it. We're going to color it. And then we're going to make this fun three-dimensional shape. And it's just some 3D art, and Saya is fantastic with that. Okay, so if you want more information on this particular project or more of the step-by-step, it is up on the blog today. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram. I learned today that we have TikTok on the go, which is fun. TikTok is a lot of fun. I have to chat with Haley about that after. And then you can watch this video again on Facebook or on YouTube, and within a week or so, it'll probably be on Instagram. So once again, I'm Christel. This was Haley. I hope you guys had a lot of fun and learned a bunch of stuff. And I will see you. Well, I won't be doing this. Saya will be doing this, but we will be here with you next Tuesday. Thank you and have a good day.